Hey guys, it's Logan with Making Manzanita here. Today we're going to be making this wall-mounted wine rack. There's a couple shelves. There's one for bottles. There's one for glassware underneath. We're going to be doing some pocket hole joinery, some dowel joinery, and we're going to be using this 1x12 piece of poplar to make the entire thing. Hope you enjoy. All right, we're going to jump right into it. Here we are ripping down some parts on the table saw. My fence is a little squirrely. I got to measure it up a couple times to make sure it's right. We're getting our widths right. Then we're going to be moving on to some cross cuts with the table saw. And if you're wondering what a cross cut and a rip cut are, the cross cut is simply cutting across the grain like I'm doing now. The rip cut is cutting along the grain like I was doing earlier. Both easy cuts to do on a table saw, and as you can see, accomplished very quickly. All right, next step here, taking this 2.5-inch piece of poplar, we're marking up where our wine slots will go. We're going to be making those with this hole saw and then ripping down this piece later. The hole saw just works a lot better when it has contact around the entire hole, and it's much easier to drill. And then you can just rip it down on a table saw afterwards. Be sure and dry fit all of your pieces together that you've cut so far. Get a wine bottle even just to make sure the fit is good and how you like it. You'll notice that the wood will bend a certain way, or you might not have cut something, exactly perfect. And the time to fix that is with the sander now. We're using 80 grit here, going to get all of these blemishes off of the wood just from handling the wood material and cutting it. You can even see that my daughter drew on one of the shelves with a permanent marker. So anything like that, just get it off now with an 80 grit sandpaper before you move on to your next step. You want to do it now. When it's assembled, it's a lot harder to do. All right, next step here is the pocket holes. We have the Craig 720 jig here in the video. Just hooking up the shop vac attachment now. And these marks were put on the wood beforehand, but you can see the 720 jig just makes doing these pocket holes a breeze. It's really nice. And also another benefit is the shop vac. It keeps the entire workspace clean while I'm doing it. We'll give you another angle here so you can see the function a little bit better from the other side. But overall, super easy, super quick, and super clean. Love having this jig around in the shop. Now we're going to assemble this. We just make marks in the middle. I use this corner clamp and really just put the screws in. I usually do each side first, and then I do the middle, just so that way the whole thing stays nice and square while I'm doing it. Now we're going to move on to the dowels. You kind of make your marks on both pieces like I'm showing there, and then just depending on what size dowel you use, start with a small bit. When you're working on the edge of a piece, like the small piece we're going to see here in a second, or you're working so close to the edge on the shelf side, it just really helps to use the 1/8-inch drill bit and work up to whatever dowel size you're going to end up using. We used about 3/8 for this, and so again, just working your way up to those bigger bits is the smart way to go. You don't want to accidentally drill through or outside, the wood. I'm using tape here as a depth guide, so I know to stop when the tape hits the surface of the wood. Then you're just going to put your dowels in, glue the dowel holes, and then glue where your railing or your piece is going to sit. Tap it in with a rubber mallet, clamp it up. Super easy process. You can see here that the dowels are just a little too long, so I ended up cutting them down, gluing and clamping again, and just kind of let those sit overnight before you start working it hard with the sander. All right, now to sanding these pieces. We're using the 80 grit here. This is, again, for shaping wood. The seams where the wood meets, we're going to be flushing those out, and flushing them means just making them even. So when you run a finger over it, there's not a jagged edge or a line there. It's just kind of a smooth finish all around. And removing any of the marks we made on the wood to drill the pocket holes, and just overall just shaping everything out. Next, we're bringing over the 220 or the Craig 720 jig. What we're going to be doing now is I'm going to be making pocket hole plugs to put into the shelves. The reason we're using this jig is because this is the same poplar wood, just a scrap piece that we made the shelves out of. And when you're staining, you want to use the same wood as the other wood project. This allows the pocket hole plugs to kind of blend in better, disappear better, and just hide and blend. Take those pocket holes down with the 80 grit sandpaper. Then we're going to be moving on to the 150. And the reason we're moving to 150 is because you might hear guys say don't skip a grit when you're sanding. All they mean is that the 80 grit puts in certain scratches in the wood, and the 150 will remove the 80 grit scratches and put new 150 grit scratches in the wood. We're leaving this at 150. You could definitely go down to 220. It's just every grit you go down, the smoother and glassier the finish will be. You'll notice the wood is slippery too. Right now I'm working out these wine rack slots. This is where the wine bottle necks will be sitting. I use the Dremel here because I had the attachment. You could definitely do this by hand like I'm doing now. Again, using that 80 grit and then working your way to 150 grit. We're going to hit this one last time. I'm chamfering the edges right now. Chamfer just means putting a slight angle sand on the corners of your wood. And what this does is just transitions both faces of the wood a little bit better and protects the corners from getting any damage at all. Next, what we're doing here is put on the Czar stain. It's a black caviar color. It looks really nice. It's really dark. And you'll see what I like to do is work it in a circular motion, and then I straighten it out afterwards. One tip here for doing the end grain or the sides, I like to use whatever stain's left on the rag. The problem is the end grains are just really open. They suck in a lot of stain. And so to keep it consistent, I just try to hit them lightly with whatever remaining stain is in the rag after I do the shelf sides and surfaces. We opted to do a spray finish here. They're super easy. You just spray, come back after a few minutes, spray again. And after 3 coats of this was the look we were going for. Okay, these are what they look like in our house. They're hung up now. We've got the bottles on top, the glassware on bottom. Had fun building this, putting it in. Now I got a place to put all this stuff. I hope you guys liked what you saw and enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that little bell as well. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments. There will be links in the description with all the products and wood material we used. And again, just thanks for watching and have a good one.